Sailor Moon? Leave. Leave. Watch the Higurashi animes? I might do a watch party on Discord like we did for Dandan. And there we are. Short stream, by the way? That's what I'm fucking saying, man. Welcome. Welcome to the world of Higurashi Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi. In this world, you will be able to recreate the story from Hanyu's point of view. Hanyu's point of view? Your objective is to create the June 1983 ideal to you. You will need to collect many different fragments to make that possible. However, Takano's conviction is very strong. To overturn it, you will need a lot of effort and a lot of fragments. I'll warn you right now, it'll be a slow and painful process. Hanyu went through it for over 100 years, and she even had to stop and give in to fate. Defeating Takano's conviction will not be easy. The trial in this world will put you through as much pain as Hanyu had to endure. You may surrender just like Hanyu did, after being emotionally worn down by the constant repetition of the worlds woven by countless fragments. When you feel like surrendering, you can end this game at any time. But if you do, the worlds revolving around your friend's fate will be limited to Onikakushi through Minagoroshi. By forgetting about this world and uninstalling this product, you will finally accept death, just like Rika did. Your ideal June 1983 can be created by putting together 50 fragments that are scattered all over this world. To connect these fragments together, you will need the right ones. There are 50 of them, which may be dizzying. However, this world isn't that merciless. To ease your pain, there will be a little help for you. When you choose the wrong pieces, your only ally here will give you a sign that it's not yet time to put those fragments together. As long as the sign remains, you won't be able to connect them. You might as well go look for different ones. After you put other fragments together, you might be able to connect the ones you couldn't put together earlier. When that happens, she'll let you know. Let's put those fragments together. Then you'll be able to join the other ones too. When you connect all 50, they'll become one big fragment. There, you'll find your ideal June 1983. That's when the long-awaited Matsuribayashi will begin. Before you peek at each fragment, why don't you line up all 50 of them first? Most of them require other fragments, so there are only a few you can actually look at. Let's try to find those first. See the conditions for connecting fragments, just point the cursor at them. Before anything else, let's find the ones you can look at without any conditions. This will be an extremely long and difficult trial. Let me tell you again, Hanyu challenged this for over 100 years and gave up on it. If you believe in miracles in the same way your friends do, even if you don't live in the world where they live, if you believe in them, welcome to the world of Higurashi Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi. In this world, wait, what? You'll be tested to see if you believe in the world that Rika and the others believed in. A miracle only happens when everyone combines their strength. The June 1983 created by Takano is nearly indomitable. She's gathered many people whose powers are beyond the average person to her side, her backers being at the center of national authority. Even 100 dice all rolled ones, there wouldn't even be a chance to defeat her. In other words, a miracle is the only way forward. A miracle happens only when everyone's combines their strength. And you're one of them. Are you ready? I'm more than ready. The key to a long journey is not to pressure yourself too hard. Well, let's take it at light pace. I'll work while drinking my usual wine. Shall we begin? We have all the time in this world. All right. You have obtained new fragments. Good God! Satoko Hojo's dissection plan? An L5 stage patient's dissection is required? The Queen Carrier must be willing to participate. The death of the construction site manager is required. The hospitalization of Satoko is required. This fragment is required first.
いやー、遅くなって申し訳。今日はどういうわけか患者さんが多くて多くて。お疲れ様です、入江兄さん。
Tomitake stood up suddenly and saluted when he saw Irie come into the room.
そのニサというのはどうかやめてください。私は医者です。どうもその軍隊的な階級には馴染めません。せめて所長でお願いします。了解しました、入江所長。
Tomitake, of course, knew that Irie didn't like to be called Lieutenant Colonel, so it was something of a joke. They laughed casually together. On the other hand, Takano looked rather fed up with it. She couldn't stand hearing the same joke over and over and was even thinking about talking to Tomitake about it. But she didn't want to hurt his feelings, so she simply never had any chance. Okay, I have news that we have 10 stegos in your bush. What? Maybe it's because of how Tomitake pronounces it, but she keeps hearing Risa. Once she heard it that way, she kept hearing Irie Risa every time Tomitake said it. When Takano told Irie about it, he had a good laugh. Today was just a simple meet and greet, and tomorrow was the actual meeting. Tomitake had already arrived, but there would be more inspectors from Tokyo at the meeting, waiting to hear about the progress that had been made.
それはそうと、ダムのことで村中が盛り上がってるみたいですね。
それはもう村中大変な騒ぎですよ。私も役員として自治体の地元説明会に参加してきたのですが、土星と馬星のそれはもう賑やかな説明会となりました。
After the basic Hinamazawa Dam project was announced, the village was consumed with uproar. The government retracted their plans for concessions rather early on. They made their aggressive stance clear. They didn't want the locals to take advantage of them by showing their willingness to compromise. However, that backfired horribly. As they had historical ties to the land, the government's actions only made their bond stronger. Neither the government nor the locals wanted to back down.
ひなみ沢の人は気性が激しいですものね。やっぱり鬼の血が流れてるからなのかしら。
笑い事じゃないですよ。あの説明会に夜中まで付き合わされた方の身にもなってみてください。
それはお気の毒でしたね。
いや、本当に笑い事ではないですよ。ダム計画はどうなってるんですか？本当にこの村はダム湖に沈められてしまうんですか？
それについては東京の方でも圧力をかけています。表向きは騒ぎになっていますが、実際の裏方ではかなり屋台骨がぐらついているはずです。
その圧力が早く効くといいんですがね。村は朝から晩まで賑やかで、村人の心もこのところすさんできたように思います。診察に来るお年寄りに捕まってたっぷりと反ダム論争を聞かされる時がありますよ。
付き合わなければいいのに。入江所長は人がいいから。
そうもいきません。私は研究所の所長である以前に診療所の所長でもあります。話を聞くのもケアの一環ですので。
それはとても良いことです。感服いたします。
私は東京の皆さんがうまく圧力をかけてくれて、いずれはダム計画を撤回してくれるものと分かっているからいいですが、村人にとっては先祖代々から住んできた土地を追い出されかねないと本当にすごい騒ぎです。
立ち退けと言われても引っ越せるほどのお金もなく若さもなく、立ち退き保証金の額の釣り上げが狙いだったの
No,
か
I'm
も
not
し
gonna
れ
give
な
you a
いけど、
summary of 7 chapters.
急にお役所の態度が変わっちゃって全面衝突。こうなってしまったら穏便に決着というのは無理かもしれませんわね。
かつては保証金に納得して立ち退きに応じようという人たちも少しはいたんですが、御三家の園崎家が強硬意見で村人をリードしてましてね。国との対決姿勢を煽っているようなんです。凱旋者みたいなのがよく騒がしくしてますし、ビラやらチラシやら機関紙やらが回覧板と一緒によく回ってきますよ。
ここに住む人にとっては大変な問題ですからね。気持ちはわからなくもありません。
そういう意味では思惑は多少違うかもしれませんが、そんな皆さんのためにもこのダム計画は早く撤回になるよう交渉を進めてほしいものです。撤回されればこの村もすぐに落ち着きのある元の村に戻るでしょうから。
もちろん分かってます。それについては東京の方で交渉を進めておりますので、もうしばらく私どもにお任せください。
東京の方で噂を聞いたんですけれど、建設省の方になかなかうまく圧力をかけられるコネクションがなくて苦労してるとか。
いや私ごときでは詳しくは知りませんが、水面下調整がうまくいっていないのではという話も少し聞きます。
Yo! She got thigh highs. Takano had powerful people supporting her, but they didn't control all of Japan. There were some things they excelled in, but also other things that they weren't too good at. Finding a way to put pressure onto the Minister of Construction fell into the latter.
冗談抜きでダムができますからここを立ち退いてくださいなんて話には本当にならないんですわよね。
もちろんです。それだけは絶対に問題ありません。時間がかかっているだけですので、皆さんはどうかそこは任せて研究を進めてください。穏便に済ませることができない場合は最終的な荒領事も辞さないことで意見はまとまっておりますので。
荒領事とは何ですか、富武さん。
そこは我々の領分です。入江所長は気にされなくて結構です。どうかお任せください。
So it was the mountain wolves. Or mountain dogs.
そうですか。わかりました。 よろしくお願いいたします。
大丈夫ですわよ、入江所長。ダム計画は絶対に撤回されますわ。だってそう決まっているんですもの。
Takano giggled. Tomitake laughed too. However, Irie couldn't understand what was so funny, so he felt left out. Irie only understood the meaning of those drastic measures when he examined a young boy he had never seen in the village before. Oh, yeah. Because Irie went to that shack, remember? Alright. So that's the start. Oh, that's an angry Takano. The truth about the Shirakawa Park accident. Repetitive apologies are required. Satoshi Hojo's sister must refuse his visit at the clinic. Satoshi Hojo's sense of responsibility as a big brother is required. An execution order for the 30 years curse is required. A declaration of war from Kuraudo Oishi is required. A bat to beat her to death is required. Who? Takano? Who are we beating to death? Oh, fuck. Okay, that one's not it. Dam construction operation withdrawal. Oh. The death of Koizumi-sensei? There's a bunch of these with fragments required first. I guess these are introductions. Irie Tomitake, is there one for... Yup, there's a Satoshi. These are introduction ones. Satoko, Rena, Mion. Keiichi's not a first. The game board must be set up. Yo, what is this? Fucking Umineko? Is this a Umineko reference? Revenge of Mio Takano is required. The Revenge of Mio Takano and Keiichi Maebara changing schools is tied? A raw sea urchin and vitamin A. A big teddy bear. She needs moral support. Game board must be set up twice. A fragment from the Watanagashi chapter is required. Game board, game board. 7 fragments. A fragment from the Tatari Goroshi chapter. Okay, I guess... Let's do the introduction ones. Group physical exams are very meaningful for our research. Although it's only for certain age groups, we can examine many of the Hinamizawa residents at the same time. It's a perfect cover for our research center. Also, because of several arrangements, we have a monopoly on the villagers' corpses and can perform autopsies on them too. It certainly wasn't an environment this rich in opportunity for those in the medical field. Our follow-ups on the work of the late Dr. Takano is going smoothly. The amount of data he compiled is absolutely astounding. He truly was an incredible researcher.
失礼します、所長。
ああ、高野さん。
Oh shit, I forgot. Webcam.
お疲れ様です。
先ほど東京から残りの検査結果が郵送されてきました。こちらに置きますわね。
ありがとうございます。いよいよ面白くなってきましたね。
この面白さを共有できてとても嬉しいですわ。
Takano-san is my assistant who was sent from the self-defense force. But she's far from the image I have of an SDF officer. Just like our research is being concealed, maybe her identity is concealed too. I'm sure her name is an alias as well. I'm just a doctor and a researcher. Without Takano-san's support, it would be impossible for me to manage this institution. She's a pipeline to her clients in Tokyo, my assistant, as well as a researcher who's an expert on Hinazawa syndrome. Her existence is absolutely necessary here. The more I think about it, the more I feel this should have been the Takano Institute rather than the Idia Institute, and she should have been the director. But that was explained to me when they asked me to take this position. My client wanted a civilian to manage this place. They searched for a person who met their requirements, and there I was. I became the director. I have a feeling I'm just a puppet on the string. Hang on, chat. Alright. I have a feeling I'm just a puppet on their strings. But I won't just sit here and do nothing. I was asked to research a rare disease. I am a researcher, so of course I'm excited about that. My client goals might be different, but I'm here out of the desire to unravel the mysteries of Hinazawa syndrome and be the first person to uncover a new mystery for mankind.
ひなみざわ症候群という寄生虫感染症がほぼ間違いなく存在するという浮かし彫りの情報はいくらでも集まるのに原因となる病原体が発見できないのはとても悔しいですね。
そうですわね。電子顕微鏡を使えばあっさりと見つかるだろうという期待も少しはしていたもので。
Viruses are too small to see with a regular microscope. So the invention of the electron microscope was a dramatic advancement in the world of medicine. However, it's very expensive and there's no way for a normal doctor to acquire one. The late Dr. Takano said an electron microscope could find the cause of the disease, but it seems the theory had been proven wrong. Even Takano-san was hoping an electron microscope would find it. She was disappointed when she didn't uncover anything after all the autopsies she performed. Our research seems to seems to be having its first snag. It has actually stalled our work for several weeks now. So we need to think about where to go from here.
となると
Wait,
極小の
first
極
snag
小
in the
な
research?
あるいは検体そのものに問題があるのかもしれません。
と申しますと、
例えばですが野生のネズミの体に多数のノミが寄生していることはですがネズミの死体を調べたところでノミを見つける宿主が死んだ時点で寄生虫であるノミの生活基盤も崩壊するからです。
宿主が死ねば寄生虫にとってそれは地球が滅んでしまうのと同じこと。
So they need a live patient to dissect.
そうです。滅びた後の地球を調べても人類を見つけることができないのと同じです。
ということは滅ぶ
そうですね。ただ滅ぶ前の地球には人権があります。
Wait, what if it was Satoshi that was dissected?
生きているうちに調べることは難しいでしょう。
Examining a living human's brain, no matter how you sugarcoated it, that bore very grave meaning. From a medical standpoint, it is necessary. But we have rules and morals in this world. And we have to advance medicine within such boundaries. There was a time when I was studying lobotomies for the betterment of mankind. I don't think I was wrong. However, could I have ever be forgiven under our ideas of ethics? I don't know. One day my judgment will be handed down by the devil. Whether I'm guilty or not, I have to accept it. As I reflected upon my past, I heard a voice. It was Takano-san's. It was very clear and simple, yet it struck me with a surprise.
わかりました。滅ぶ前の地球を用意させましょう。
え？
I'm startled. Sometimes the phrase advancing medicine bore the whisper of the devil, tempting us to accept sacrifices. I heard that devil whisper.
そんなに難しいことではありません。南沢の住民で、すでに重篤の状態。
しかし、いくら余命いくばくとはいえ、自らの体を生きているうちに検体に差し出される勇気。
そんな必要はありませんわ。いずれ亡くなる方にほんの少し早く お休みいただくというだけの話ですわ。書類上ね。
Patient would be legally declared dead even though they're still alive. And we perform an autopsy while they're still alive.
無理でしょう。第一、頭蓋を切開するような大手術となれば、絶対に遺体を遺族の方が見られたら不審に。
そういうところを何とかできるのが私。山犬に子宮条件を満たす患者が存在しないか。しない病。先生はお皿の前でナイフとフォークをお持ちになって待ってすぐに料理をお持ちいたしますから。
This was long ago, bro. How was EDA okay with working with this bitch after she did this? I guess for science. You know, Takono-san is my partner. There's no question about that. But I just can't trust her. It's her extremities as a researcher, which contrasts largely with mine. But are we so different? I'm here simply waiting with a knife and a fork in my hands, just as she told me to. I just don't want to witness such a gruesome scene, that's all. What she's preparing for me now is exactly what I want. Who's the hypocrite? Not her. It's me. How can I say I'm different, knowing what I've done in the past? I've performed lobotomies without the patient's consent, despite it being surgery that might affect their life forever. How is that different from what she's doing? I have never doubted my past achievements. However, when I look at her, I start to feel unease. Takono-san is talking to Okonogi-san on the intercom in my office. I'm sure she's telling him to come over so she can explain to him what was just discussed. I'm simply watching without stopping her. I begin to reflect upon my past to remember why I chose to become a doctor. Interesting. So it seems like what it might be that is multiple fragments have start fragments and then they connect to certain things, right? So that was the EDA. So Satoko's dissection plan discontinued. Live specimen is required. Death of Satoko's aunt. Okay, we need instructions for kidnapping operation of minister's grandson. That might be Tomitake's intro. Yeah. Forecast said there was a chance for rain in the evening, but I didn't think it would rain so hard. We decided to wait at an abandoned bus stop for the rain clouds to clear.
ごめんよ、かかっ
あら、いいのよ、気にしないで、ジローさん。私も土砂降りになるかもしれないことを覚悟の上で出かけたんだけど。
Yo, someone lowered the rain volume. I can't hear them. I feel like I'm playing Dino game. Although she said the weather might change suddenly, I dragged her out here. I feel stupid for making her come along and ending up ruining her precious day off. I have to go back to Tokyo tonight, so it'll be a while before I can return to Hinamizawa. I didn't want to spend my last day at a cheap hotel in Okinomiya, so I asked her to go for a stroll.
本当に申し訳ない。
She teased me for a while, but only a little. She wasn't actually enjoying driving me into a corner. That's just her way of communicating, and I find it very charming. I think I've become captivated by her. But on her part, I'm just an auditor from Tokyo. That's why she's being nice to me, and it's definitely not because she likes me personally. So I feel like I might have used my position to drag her out here, and that makes me a little depressed. I probably should think this slight fever I have is due to nothing more than a cold. But she was the type of person who made it clear when she disliked something. She wouldn't say so directly, but she would use all kinds of indirect expressions that meant the same thing. So I want to believe she's out here because she might be even a little bit attracted to me. I shook my head as I frowned upon my selfish thoughts. She chuckled as though she knew what I was thinking. I felt myself starting to go red after that.
ジローさんも不思議な人ね。 と
おかしななんてことはないよ。高野さんは十分魅力的だよ。むしろ僕みたいな男のために貴重な休日を
Tomatake,
割
you
いて
should
もら
never
ったの
put your dick in
申し訳ない
crazy.
くらい。
That's why you die.
確かに私はとても
I wonder if there's a way to
大切
save
な研究のた
Tomatake
め
in
に
any
生涯を捧げるつもり
timeline.
だけど人生は潤いがないのよ。たまには頭を切り替えて遊ぶことも大事だし、それに異性とのコミュニケーションは脳の活性にもとてもいいんだから。
僕ごときで高野さんの頭の気分転換のお役に立ててるならいいんだけどね。
あなたは私と一緒にいても気分転換にはならない。
She gives me an impish smile that makes my heart skip a beat. I tried hiding my embarrassment so she wouldn't notice even my ears going red.
そんなことないよ。僕も高野さんと一緒に過ごせるといろいろと気分転換になるよ。それにほら、高野さんに野鳥撮影のことを布教すれば僕も撮影の同志を得られるわけだしね。もしよかったら次に来るときは僕の古いカメラを持ってくるよ。買うと高いからね。
So, oh wait, no, it's just fucking, bro. Why does it like?
ありがとう。
Okay.
あなたを虜にする野鳥撮影がどれくらい楽しいのかぜひ教えていただけると嬉しいわ。次の機会には野鳥撮影の散策にご一緒したいわ。
うん。
Oh my god, Takano's completely fucking hypnotizing Tomatake. Fucking succubus bitch.
東京に戻ったら送るよ。
ありがとう。次に来てくださるときはぜひ私の写真の批評をお願いするわ。
どんな写真か楽しみだな。
きっと二郎さんみたいにはいかないわ。本当に初めてですもの。
While she keeps her cool and smiles, all I can do is blush and scratch my head. Am I being conceited? I can't help but think that Takano-san likes being with me. If it's mere flattery, I don't think she'd come along this far. Oh no, no, no. Taking women's flattery seriously is the mistake I always make. I shouldn't assume that she's attracted to me.
こうして二郎さんと二人きりでゆっくりおしゃべりをするのは初めてね。
そうだね。いつも所長とか他の研究員の人とかがいたりする。
私、あなたのことを全然知らないの。あなたが東京でどんな仕事をしているかとか、今までどんなことをしてきたのかとか、自衛隊ではどんな活躍をされているのかしら。
昔ちょっとだけ教官の真似事をしてたけどね。怪我をした時に目をやっちゃってね。普段の生活には支障はないんだけど大ごとに受け取られちゃって、それ以来は事務屋の仕事ばかりやらされてるんだよ。
Takano-san giggles, saying I must have done something silly to cause the injury.
それでね、体内の広報誌を作る仕事を手伝った時にイベントの写真撮影で初めてカメラの魅力を知ったんだよ。カメラには人を幸せにする力があるんですよ。何を言ってるんだろうって思ってるだろうけど、いやこれは本当なのさ。僕はカメラに触れるようになってから日々に幸せを感じるようになったと思ってる。
カメラでどうして幸せになれるのかしら。
カメラというのは日々の生活を切り取って写真にして残すものなんだ。じゃあ幸せなものはどこにあるんだろうとファインダー越しに自分の周りの世界を覗いてみると、そこには今まで当たり前だと思っていたものが実はとても幸せなものだったんだと気づくことでいっぱいなんだ。例えば 路肩のアスファルトの隙間からけなげに生えている一輪のタンポポだって忙しく通り過ぎる時にはただの雑草に過ぎないけれど、ファインダー越しに覗いた時、それは春の訪れを教えてくれる季節からの素敵な贈り物であったことに気づけるんだ。それを写真に収めアルバムに残す。そしてアルバムを再び開くたびにその時の幸せな気持ちがよみがえってくる。
二郎さんは風景や野鳥の撮影をしながらそんな気持ちに浸っているの？
その写真が芸術的かどうかとか賞を取れるような劇的瞬間かどうかなんていう野心的なことは、僕にとってあまり僕たちが気づかない小さな幸せに気づかせたって、そこにこそ
There's
カメラ
no
の魅
connection
力があ
to
るんだ。
anything we've looked at so far.
だから
Unless there's a
そん
fucking
な気
thing
持
for
ちでこの
Tomatake's
木南沢を
camera
カウンターで
or
見せてるこ
photos.
とはとても楽しくて幸せなことなんだ。
I have a tendency to go overboard when I talk, but most of the time Takano-san playfully twists my words right back into me. So it's very unusual for her to listen to me like this. Takano-san sat down next to me and tried to fiddle with my camera. I don't know how much of an impression I made, but I think she's indeed interested in cameras. I was expecting her to tease me like usual, so I'm happy to see that this is her
ちょ
reaction.
っと試してみる。
私にもできるかしら？
簡単だよ。最初はピントの合わせ方とシャッターの押し方だけ覚えれば十分さ。見てるな。ああ、レンズには絶対に触れちゃったね。
ブー、簡単じゃないじゃない。
Since she seemed to show an interest in cameras, I wanted to take a walk around Hinamizawa and take some pictures of the scenery. But unfortunately, the rain doesn't seem to want to stop. But she was still having fun and kept taking pictures inside the bus stop. So the first set of pictures she ever took were of odd things in that dark little building. Since then, every time we'd meet, we ended up walking around the village with our cameras in our hands. What's that gotta do with anything? Maybe there's a fragment that says Takano resist Tomitake. Okay, we have Tomitake's slight fever. Cerebrospinal fluid. Local explanatory meeting. Whose fever? Rika. We don't have a Rika fragment. Red capsule, strawberry milk candy. Alright, I guess we go Satoko. My name is Satoko Hojo, but Hojo is my current father's family name. I was also Satoko Hatake, Satoko Yoshizawa, and also Satoko Matsura because of my previous fathers. Damn, bro, Satoko's mom was busy. I'm still not used to being called Hojo-san. If someone calls me Satoko, then I know that person is talking to me, because Satoko is the name I've been using since I was born. I don't understand why my mother keeps getting married and divorced. If she's going to get a divorce, why does she get married? If she's married, why does she get a divorce? I've asked her before, but depending on the situation, her answers were different. When I asked her when she was married, she got angry. When I asked her after she got divorced, she cried. I don't understand the meaning of marriage, so I have no interest in drawing pictures of a bride in a wedding dress. I don't think I'll ever get married. I don't want to keep changing my child's last name. My teacher once asked if I liked my mother. I think it was when I was in kindergarten in Okinomiya. That was a very difficult question, because sometimes I loved her very much and sometimes I hated her very much. I couldn't decide. When my mother was nice, she smiled all the time. She made us happy. She thanked me for being her daughter. When my mother wasn't nice, she frowned all the time. She treated my brother and me very poorly. She told me I should have never been born. My teacher asked me if I liked my father. That was a very easy question, because I always hated him very much, no matter who he was. The new fathers always treated me nicely at first, as if I was their real daughter. They always told me I could think of them as my real father, but they couldn't be my real father. Besides, I didn't even know my real father's face. How could I call them by my father? I couldn't. This was disgusting. Right before divorce, my fathers always became very irritated with me. They treated me like a cockroach. They told me they didn't have money to feed me. They threw things at me, and they locked me out on the veranda. I was told I could forget about them because that was all in the past. I think that was a different teacher from a different school. Maybe that's true, because ever since Hojo became my father, my mother has been smiling. Hi, babe. I haven't seen them get into a fight as I have seen happen just before a divorce. They have little arguments here and there, but those don't lead to a divorce, and they always make up. But I'm sure they'll get a divorce sooner or later. Then it'll be the same old stuff with the family court, divorce settlements, a night flight, and a child support. So who knows how long this Hojo will be my father. That's why I don't even feel like calling him that. He also treated me well at first, but when I didn't call him father, even after he asked me repeatedly, he became irritated. They'll get a divorce soon. When my father gets into this mood, a divorce is on the way. After a divorce, it's my mother's turn to be irritated with me. Then she'll tell me she shouldn't have had me, or she can't be happy because of me. Why is my existence causing problems for my mother? I asked my brother, and he told me. If you have children, it's not easy to find someone to get married with. To my mother, remarriage is a very important job, so I can understand having children around will cause problems. I think I finally understand the reason why I'm a nuisance to her. I asked my brother something else. Why are children hated by new fathers? Well, that's simple. That's because family members all have different roles. A mother's job is to love her children. A father's job is to love the mother. That means I'm a nuisance to both my mother and my father. My brother is more mature than me, so they don't look down on him as a nuisance. But maybe I am... No, I am definitely a nuisance. So now I know. Both my mother and father want me dead. But if they kill me, they'll be caught. But that doesn't mean they won't kill me. If I were to look down the cliff, and if no one was around, my mother and father would push me off for sure. Did Satoko kill her parents? My father has become abnormally nice to me recently. He started to act that way ever since I made the fake call. I know for sure that it's just part of a plot to kill me, so I won't let them trick me. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Lately, when I listen very carefully, I can hear a voice apologizing. The voice sounds similar to mine. Her mother must be telling her that she shouldn't have been born. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But I won't apologize like that. I'll live. I'm going to strike back. I'll kill before I get killed. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So this is why Satoko was an L5 patient. Because she fucking killed her parents. Oh, shit. Okay, then we know exactly where to go. Where is it? Repeated apology. Repetitive apologies. What? That's not it? Ah, there we go. That makes sense because we did EDAs. I've wanted to become a doctor ever since I was little. Doctors make a lot of money. People look up to doctors. I think those are the kind of reasons I had. So when I played with my friends, I always acted like a doctor. I cleaned their wounds and applied ice packs when my friends sprained their ankles, using what I learned from my household medical books. Everyone, including me, believed that I'd be a doctor one day. My family was poor, so they praised me for that goal. They told me that I needed to study a lot to become a doctor, so they borrowed some pseudo-medical books from the local library for me. The rental fees weren't cheap. So I would speed read one book in a day, and the next day my parents would go back to the store to exchange it for a different book, saying they accidentally borrowed a book they already borrowed before. By doing so, my parents borrowed 2 books for the price of one. Of course, now I know those books were rather useless, but they were highly motivational just the same. My neighbors called me Dr. Kyosuke-kun, and I was always picked for class health officer at school. Even my teacher helped me with the classes I needed to take to become a doctor. Of course, in reality, becoming a doctor isn't as easy as it might seem. I had to study diligently, and the path was most definitely rough. To become a doctor, one must attend college. Since my family was poor, I was told I wasn't allowed to go to an expensive private school, so I had to be admitted to a national public university. My grades weren't bad, but the admission rate to the national public university is very marginal. Especially since I wanted to go to the medical school, my chances were even smaller. I studied like crazy. My only driving force was my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. The dream of becoming a doctor had to be looked up to by everyone kept me going. And I was admitted. I wasn't at the top of the list, but I made it in. I was finally at the starting point of making my childhood dream come true. My parents were thrilled. Neither my father nor my mother went to college, so they were proud of their son getting into a public medical school. They invited our relatives over to celebrate. Although it was a public university, tuition wasn't cheap, but they still had an extravagant celebration anyway. My father didn't express his emotions much. He always kept a straight face. He rarely voiced his opinion or took initiative on anything. My mother took care of everything, and she showed up last and left without saying a word. He was the typical stern and silent Japanese father of the time. That's why I was surprised to see him shedding tears of joy, and I cried along with him. He went around to all my relatives while repeatedly slapping my back, saying how proud and lucky he was to have a son like me. He bragged about my achievements to all who would hear them. The celebration became my farewell party as I was about to leave for Tokyo. My father yelled a banzai repeatedly at the station as a train pulled away. I was a little embarrassed, but when I could no longer see my father, I could clearly recall the tears pouring down. The days of hellish studying and exams began after that. Some days I was tempted to just give up and submit myself to the lavish lifestyle of the city, but the letters from my family always encouraged me and gave me strength to go on. My dream then was to open up my own clinic in my hometown so I could contribute to the region. I never even dreamed of getting involved with brains. One day I noticed a difference in my letter from my family. The letter said the usual things about how it was at home and asked how I was doing, but the postscript was what caught my attention. Your father has become really violent lately. Sometimes he turns the house upside down and I don't know what to do. No, did he lobotomize his own father? I just couldn't picture him acting viciously. I was extremely surprised. Did something happen? But in the postscript, my mother said that there was nothing she could think of. My mother and father have been together for a long time. They've been together well before I was born, so she noticed things that I couldn't. She couldn't even think of a reason why my father had become so violent. What happened? They got along so well. They were such a lovely couple. When I caused a problem for my mother when I was little, my father only bunked my head with his knuckle. Why was he acting this way towards my mother? Maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding between them. I was going home for the new year. Maybe I could have a good talk with him then. But the situation was a lot more serious than I thought. On one cold winter day, I found my apartment door unlocked. I thought someone had broke in, but I found my mother in my apartment with her luggage. That's right, my mother could no longer take my father's fury and came to stay with me. This was back when people still believed in the proverb, a woman has no place to settle down all her life. She couldn't go back to her own family because they lived in the same region as my father, so she came all the way to Tokyo. I heard about my father's violence from my mother's own lips. She cried, saying she had no idea why such a quiet man changed like that. She said she wasn't ever going back to him. I didn't know what to do. I asked her if she could talk to him one more time, but the bruises on her body told me it was no use. To remember what happened afterwards is too much, so I'll be brief. After my mother left, my father thought she was having an affair and went over to the neighbor's house with a wooden sword. He was arrested. He was released immediately, but he assumed someone in the neighborhood was hiding her, so he did the same thing repeatedly. He eventually reached a point of getting into fights with anyone he saw. In the end, he picked a fight with some young punks and ended up being beaten to death. Okay, my relatives gave my father a decent funeral, but my mother didn't attend. It's no use beating a dead horse. So nobody said anything negative about my father, but everyone was simply puzzled as to why he changed so much. What I heard from my relative about my father's final days was a lot stranger than what I heard from my mother. Okay, so we got into neurology because of his father. My mother only told me about his sudden rage and violence, but my relatives told me he also laughed and grew sad. Apparently, he displayed several sudden fluctuations of emotions, especially so in his last years. They also told me that he started to complain about headaches after an accident he had. My father was a construction worker. He had hit his head hard on a construction board during an accident at work. He regained his consciousness quickly and seemed fine, but since the accident, he started to have headaches and behave abnormally. I sensed a connection between the accident and my father's changes, so I talked to my professor after I went back to Tokyo.
断言はできませんが、その様子からその事故の際に脳が傷つき、精神的な変化を起こしたのかもしれませんね。お父さんの晩年の言動からは、そんな患者さんに多く見られるいくつかの症状が伺えます。
Human behavior is created by the brain, and if the brain is damaged, it can cause erratic behavior. In other words, my father wasn't crazy. He was suffering from a disorder.
お父さんの遺体を検視できるなら、脳をよく調べてみるといいでしょう。ひょっとすると、腫瘍のようなものが見つかるかもしれません。
My father had already been cremated, so there was no way of knowing. But hearing about his behavior, I knew for sure. That was the only way to explain why such a quiet and gentle man would change. I tried to explain all this to my relatives to regain my father's honor, but hardly anyone understood. If his brain was damaged, he would have been dead. But he was alive and well, so the accident didn't damage his brain. It was his brain that caused him to change. It was his mind. They simply brushed it off like that. This is the perception most people have about the brain. They don't realize the mind and the brain are connected. Most of the relatives didn't believe me, but there was one person who I really wanted to anyway. That was my mother. As she got older, she grew senile and she exaggerated the abuse she had to endure. All she did was criticize my father, and every time she ended up crying, lamenting that she married him. They were a lovely couple. We were a great family. That's why I wanted to convey to her that she was misunderstanding the situation with my father. My father's behavior was caused by his brain damage. What he did to her was very sad, but he didn't want to be that way. I told her that he wasn't at fault. But my mother didn't understand. Before she took her last breaths, I begged her to forgive my father, but her final words were, "Please don't bury me next to that man." My father wasn't at fault. He was simply the victim of a brain disorder. You don't complain to a person who's coughing because he has a cold, because coughing is just a symptom, and he should be sympathized with. In my father's case, the symptoms weren't as obvious as a cough. They took the form of changes in personality, which are much harder to recognize. If I had studied the brain more, I could have explained it better to my mother so that she could have understood him. Then they could have been a nice couple again in heaven. When I realized that, I cried. I also realized that there were plenty of people like my father in this world who are suffering from a disorder, yet they are misunderstood and despised for it. And then I found out. I found out about a miraculous cure for such a disorder called lobotomy. Ever since that day, I spent my days learning about the brain so I could help people who are suffering from mental illness. My father is gone, but if he was still alive, I could cure him myself. So here my mother could reconcile. That's the main reason why I'm here. Bro wanted to lobotomize his dad! Oh my god! Yeah, about that, idiot. I don't know if that would have been a good idea. None of these would connect. We don't have the live. Distrust of the mother of a queen. I don't think that's it either. We don't have the exact details yet. Okay. I think we just need to do the other starting points, but we'll go from there. All right, chat. That's where we're gonna wrap up today. Today was supposed to be a short stream. We still are fucking 6 hours, bro. 6 hours. How is this a short stream? What the fuck? Anyways. Alrighty. I will short as fuck Higu Sesh. Well, it's because it's not necessarily chapter, right? We're kind of figuring out. It's more of a puzzle, but we'll continue it tomorrow. Rookie numbers, motherfucker, supposed to be a short stream. Bro, 10 stegophobits are waiting. Are you real? What do you mean, man? It's already 6 hours. Tomorrow we'll do Dino, Stego Dino, all right? I'll see y'all tomorrow, chat. I got dinner waiting for me. Good night, everybody.